I feel like particularly with being a yes person, if you're in a positive environment and you're with the right energy, you can set up multi-million-dollar companies. You can be philanthropic or whatever. But if you're in a toxic environment with you can just go straight down. And I found there's particularly with people with addiction, they tend to be yes people.
Episode 16, Brothers of Purpose, Mr. 90, bro.
Welcome, brother.
Good morning. Good morning.
Great to have you on, bro.
We've been excited to have you on, bro, because we got a little cheeky referral from Daps, and you said, look, you need to get this guy on, listen to your music as a fan, and if you just want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you're from, all that sort of jazz, bro.
Okay. I am a rapper, artist, activist, spoken word poet, filmmaker, but ultimately inquisitive human being, just like
love that.
Everyone else.
That's a wicked way. You say that. Like everyone else. I'm not sure that many people are nowadays. That's interesting, man. I love that.
Yeah, man. So what took your spark of interest first out of all of those areas? Like, where was your heart initially?
My mum used to read me poetry, and I always used to I write poetry from a young age. That's something I always liked.
Awesome.
But I think probably cinema. So I remember vividly watching Return of the Jedi in cinema. They had a re-release in the 1997, 98 around time. And I remember there was a moment when there was TIE fighters and stuff going on, and then a laser beam went from one side of the screen to the other. And I turned around, and I realized that there was a beam of light coming from the projector, and I saw everyone was just I had this meta moment where I'm like, everyone's captivated by this beam of light. And I was like, because everyone's drawn the cinema, but no one thinks about
what's going on behind.
That was kind of like a light bulb moment when I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah,
and that's cool. Ever since then, I've been fascinated by film and cinema and the power that it has.
Love that.
Love that, bro.
And then, so when you said activist, that interests me.
Yeah.
In what way?
Well, I don't want to get too political.
You get as political as you want.
Especially these days, man. But generally, I fight for justice and peace and love. One of the founders.
That's awesome.
For early gigs I used to do were like pro NHS, raising money for the NHS. Generally, I feel like music is made to bring people together. I'm very much was raised on the spirit of giving. I went to a church school, so that was kind of instilled in me, the idea that, to give back and a sense of community.
I love that.
Because I think, I really agree with what you said there. I think music, in a general sense, is used to bring people together. I think sometimes it's used for the opposite effect.
Yes.
But I think it shouldn't be used for that. I think it definitely should be used to bring people together. It's such a good way of evoking emotion. And it brings out, I mean, for me, you've been sat in my car. Sometimes we'll sit in my car and I've got the hardest Russian techno playing. Other times I'll have country music and he can't get his head around it. But for me, it depends completely on the mood and where I'm at and what I'm doing that day. So it varies.
Expression, isn't it?
It is energy. It's energy in its sense. And I don't DJ as much as I used to. I actually started off DJing before I started rapping.
Yeah.
And the feeling you get when you play a song, like just, you can make the entire room light up in a second by playing a song. That feeling is...
I think that's so cool.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
I think that's something which a lot of people will probably be envious in a way of, because I've often thought about that. We had Dawkins on, and he would say the same thing. He would say how, he has these moments where he's looking out into the crowd and he can see he's having a direct effect on all these people's moods. That's power, that. That's cool.
You can lift the spirit of everyone in the room.
100%.
Almost instantly.
Yeah.
Music is powerful, bro. It's very powerful. So have you always been into your music, or did that just transcend from the power poetry?
My grandmother bought me a hi-fi when I was 11.
Cool.
And it was one of those that had a cassette deck and a CD. And it had the radio on, so I used to listen to the top 40 and I'd record the songs that I like, so I was making little mixtapes from then.
That's cool, man.
And then I started selling CDs when I learned how to download music.
Awesome.
And I started making CDs for people. People would come up with me with lists and I would make them.
Yeah.
And then I'd make like the ones that people were demanding loads of, I'd make like a bunch of those and kind of shot them.
That's sick.
So I was kind of like, even back then, I was kind of like a DJ.
Was that back in like the LimeWire days and all of that?
Man.
Yeah.
And then one summer, everyone figured out how to download music and I was out of business.
That's sick.
Good
Love
times,
that. Love a hustle, bro. Love a hustle. So in your music, bro, it's very diverse, isn't it? It's very dynamic.
Very talented, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah, very talented, bro. What's the motivation behind certain songs that you do? Because I feel like there's quite a big mix. Do you just kind of go where your heart goes?
Yes, I think self-expression. I feel like almost all mental health complexes and problems that we have stem from a lack of self-expression. When you're very young, if there's
love
certain
that.
aspects of yourself you can't
Yeah.
express. But music is liberating in that way. So like when I first started writing, I was very depressed. So my early songs were really quite depressing, but it was like, this is one place in my life I can be completely honest. I don't have to fit into a role or do what society wants me to do. When I'm on the mic or the beat, I could just be honest. And then when I got on stage, I can, if I did the stuff I do on stage in the street, people would think I was crazy. But because it's,
Expressive.
it's liberating,
That's
it's
so
freeing.
cool. That's one of the best things I've heard in a while. I like the way you've explained that. Yeah. I mean, I think, do you feel, so I like what you said there where you were saying it allows you to fully express yourself. Do you ever use it as a way of expressing yourself in not necessarily an unauthentic way, but you can play a character, play a role almost?
See, this is the thing, because if you express yourself in a certain way and then you develop, you grow. Like Eminem's a great example of this. Like obviously he's matured, he's become someone else. Do you continue to play this character because you know it sells well and because it's something that you tapped into, or are you authentic to yourself? So where do you draw the line? And I find it interesting that a lot of rappers have like those alter egos. Like one that's kind of like egoic one and the more like them. And it is something that I have wrestled with at times because I'm like, I'm definitely growing, I'm definitely evolving. I don't necessarily feel like there's songs that I don't play anymore because I don't feel like that anymore.
I can see the growth just because I've done a bit of a throwback and I looked at your older music to like now. I can see the growth, bro. Like, yeah, definitely. There must be a lot of inspiration behind the music though, in terms of where you come from. Am I right?
Yes. I think that's something I've wrestled with. So when I was younger, I was very stigmatized and ashamed of my culture. There was only 3 brown people in the whole school. One of them was my brother. So I was like, As I went to university, I got more in touch with what is British Asian culture. And I'm at a point now where I'm completely comfortable and I understand.
Where are you from originally?
My mum's from India, my dad's from Pakistan.
Okay, cool.
And those countries were at war.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it blows my own mind. I don't know how.
It's tough.
But
Yeah,
here,
what is
man.
it? There's
I'm out here, bro.
what's that area of land between I think the two countries where
Kashmir.
yeah,
Kashmir. Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff going on there.
contentious.
Yeah.
It is.
Geopolitics. Yeah, man.
That's cool. I mean, personally, I'm really fascinated by that though. Like that must give you clearly a very unique outlook.
Yes.
And way of thinking.
Well, I think the way that my parents raised me, which I'm very grateful for, was they didn't instill any dogma into me. They let me believe whatever, because I think they had grown up in that way and they had love for each other and compassion for each other, so that they raised us here and with the freedoms.
That's good though, bro. It's
To
rare.
think for ourselves.
That's what I was going to
It's
say.
rare when there's a big cultural clash like that. Are there similar cultures?
There's a lot about your parents, though.
India and Pakistan, or would you say it's
In
quite
a lot of
different?
ways, but that's the same with everyone, really. I mean, people just try and find the divisive lines, but there is more that unites
so true.
than divides us in most cases.
This is very true, bro.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet?
Through music.
it?
Music, pretty much.
We got Craig with us today, by the way. Hedgehog man.
Yeah,
The hedges in the building.
pulling the strings.
Well, to be honest with you, I think 90 Bro worked with every single other Northeast rapper there was, and then
Other
left
than
me
him.
the last.
Yeah. Save the best still last.
Working my way up.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, like, you don't mind me being completely frank here.
Yeah.
You've talked publicly about your sobriety.
Yeah.
This was one of the things. There's people who, to this day, don't mess with him. Do you know what I mean? Can I swear on this podcast?
Say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. But no, it's true. There's people to this day. To this day. But like, it's, for me, it's like once I actually met him and got to know him and we connected on a lot of levels. So
Very quickly.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I think in the first 4 days we had an EP done together, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I attended. Yeah.
It was a good time, man.
That
I mean, I was
would've-
still
that-
very high in those days.
I was going to say that would
But
have
it
been
was
an
a good time.
intense studio session. That,
Yeah,
I
man.
bet.
No, that is something that's always kind of. I feel like I've got that. I'm a Gemini rising as well, and I've grew up on Tupac. I feel like I've got that mentality where I'm like, if I'm doing something, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah,
And then we can do the editing or whatever later.
100% work the rest out
Just,
afterwards.
In the zone, yeah. I lock in.
So-
When I lock in, I lock in.
Yeah,
You
we've
know.
probably
Yeah.
got 40 unreleased tracks on my hard drive somewhere. I might dig those out.
That's it, man.
Definitely.
That's it, bro. Just
So Alex is a Gemini. I've got this theory that you are like the go-getters of the world.
communicators. Communicators. Yes.
How much do you believe in this stuff, bro? Because I had a small phase about 3-4 years ago where I got really deep into it, but then the science took over and it's like I retracted.
Okay.
So
Well, I feel like I went into a rabbit hole with astrology. I'm probably more into numerology than astrology, but I feel like it's the same reason anyone goes into any doctrine, be it philosophical or religious, trying to find certainty in an uncertain world. And I feel like the belief in something gives it power. So these archetypal energies that exist, if people believe in it, that reinforces its belief, and then that energy
collective thought.
becomes
Yeah. No, I agree, bro.
that's amazing.
That's a really good way of explaining it. It's almost like what gives anything meaning. If enough people believe in it, it becomes real. It's almost like even God. If you were to conceptualize God, even if God wasn't real, he's very real because of how many people believe in him.
And I think it's like we're trying to quantify the unquantifiable.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah,
Human
in
nature,
our
that
terms,
though.
in how we see.
For me, in the last couple years of my active addiction, that was something I sort of battled with and questioned, was because I saw this correlation between so many people that were successful and they had belief in some way, whatever specific belief that was or whatever God they believed in. And I started to try and understand it in a way that I could understand it, because I always think if you can take something complex and simplify it, that's going to help me. At least that's the way my head works. So I just got to a point where, for me, it gave me a moral compass, gave me guidelines, justification for right and wrong. And that's sort of the motive I follow now. Try and be a better person every day. I pray in the mornings, I pray in the evenings. I do my morning gratitude, my nightly inventory, and it keeps me aligned.
Yes.
And it keeps me centered, and it gives me that peace on a daily basis. So I love that. So I love what you said there.
Yeah.
It's the belief.
I think gratitude is the foundation, because you can lose sight and live in delusions, you know. But I think even if you're in a bad situation, if you have the rigorous acceptance of the present moment, then you can move from there.
Yeah.
But if you're living in the past, so you can't move from there, you can only move from where you're at. But if you completely, totally accept it,
Yeah.
then you can go any direction.
The door's open.
That's very true.
That's so true,
Yeah.
bro.
Can you see the next step? We'll just take that.
But those rituals that you're saying, those are all grounding practices. Those all keep you, you know.
Keep
No, I
you firm
appreciate
in
that.
that
I
ground,
agree. Yeah.
So how deep did the spiritual exploration go for you, bro?
Still going, bro. I'm still.
It's an
I
ongoing
love that,
process,
man.
right?
It's going on.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like
I
the
love
craziest
that,
thing
man.
is cycles. You know, like when you start to see cycles, like I'm seeing, particularly with astrological things and nodal returns, I'm starting to see it where it's like, I don't know whether it's necessarily that pattern or that I'm putting it in, but things come back around. Like I'm finding things that I went through 6-7 years ago happening again, but I'm having a different reaction to it. I've grown and I'm making different decisions.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
It's
really
that-
cool.
It's that awareness of that. I think that's what's most
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, that's the whole game, isn't it? It's a game of awareness. It's like the only way you can separate each dimension of reality is how aware you are becoming of life and all that's around you in some sense.
And I think Aristotle has a great quote. It is the mark of an educated man, or to be educated, is to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So like when you watch a movie, you don't think that that world is real, but you can entertain the idea. I think that's so important,
interesting.
because you can get lost in,
That's going to go over a lot of people's heads, but
and even
It's
their
so
own
true.
thoughts. You know, some people might have bad thoughts and think, why am I thinking that? But without judgment, that's just your brain working. It doesn't mean you're not that thought.
Yeah,
I might have a horrible
yeah,
thought.
yeah.
It doesn't mean that's me.
Yeah.
It's just the brain. Sometimes it does that.
Well, I was talking to you about this yesterday. Rumination. So the more you talk about negative things, the more they become reality.
Correct.
So and I've gotten these ruts before. This real self-pity, self-deprecating. Why is all this bad stuff happening? And suddenly it continues to happen. So it's for me, it is that manifestation, but it also is. That's why I have those core values, those non-negotiables every day. Because like you say, they keep me grounded.
Yeah.
So I love that. This is interesting. This is cool.
Yeah. I heard something really cool, which was like the bigger the gap between your thought and your reaction to it, the deeper level of consciousness that you're operating with. So it's almost like when you have that first thought and then you're about to respond, it's like creating a bigger and bigger gap between your thought and the reaction to the thought.
Yes.
Is deepening your level of conscious awareness.
Correct.
Yeah, something
Like a child would just instantly react, just because they haven't developed that yet.
Yeah, 100%.
But at the same time, you can become too detached. There are people who've gone through extreme traumas and then they're just so detached that they're not. Things could be going well and they are not.
And they can't even acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I got
But it's a balance, man.
Yeah.
Craig, I got a question for you.
You have to embrace the moment. Yeah,
For a fellow neurodivergent person, how quickly does your brain react?
Well, as soon as you said that, I was thinking about when he said, that a child would just instantly react. I was wondering what's the oldest I can be before I can stop blaming ADHD?
that's what I was saying. Because Mike does this to me. He's like, "Don't respond now. Give it time." Because that's the way my brain goes. It sees something and says, "Right, what's the solution?" So I'm trying to get that.
The only time the only time I've ever put that into practice on a regular basis if I get angry at a friend, I tend to try and wait 24 hours before I message them, say anything to them.
That's a good policy.
I think if I still feel the same way then I'm at least I'd definitely feel as if I'm right. That might not be right, but at least I feel as if I'm right. And that's good because it's good putting that buffer between me and my friendships. Otherwise, I wouldn't have any friends left.
Sometimes you don't have 24 hours to respond. Sometimes things are fast paced and you have to make quick decisions. That's why, spending that alone time and having those grounding that helps with your intuition and your instinct. Because sometimes you need to make quick decisions. The more you learn to trust your gut, it gets sharper and it But I feel like people who have, I can speak from example. Being in controlling relationships or being in dynamics where I'm being told what to do, you become insecure of thinking for yourself. So you're less likely to make quick decisions. But it's learning from mistakes. I feel like sometimes you do need to learn things the hard way.
Yes.
But ultimately, the more and more you trust your gut, the sharper it'll get.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
fantastic.
Yeah.
If I didn't learn things the hard way, I wouldn't have learned anything at all. To be honest.
No, we've definitely gone down that path, mate.
But it does makes your integrity is stronger on the other side.
I couldn't agree more. When you as a man, and I imagine as a woman as well, when you are humbled, that's one of the most important lessons. I'm speaking for myself that I've ever gone through. Anytime I've been humbled, I do come out the other side. I feel a better person. Yeah. Eventually, it will take time, but that process.
It's not easy to stomach, but it's important. Yeah.
It is, and but again, this comes back to my faith, where thy will be done. It's planned out. It's planned out, and I have to trust that process because that really helps me sort of go, okay, I don't have the control here. Let's just ride it out.
That's interesting because I've flirt with the idea of destiny, but I feel like we do have free will to an extent.
Yes.
But I can feel when I'm doing something that's not aligned, things go wrong, and I have that inner feeling. And I feel like when I'm doing things right, things line up, and I have that inner feeling. I remember phases in my life where things were bad, and I'm like, I wasn't really aligned with what I really believe in or keeping the right energy around me. And then when things were going well, I could tell. So I feel like to an extent it is, but also we get these kind of cosmic nudges.
That's so bang on. That's so bang on because that's something I get that in my head, and it's something I'm trying to get better at listening to. But it takes once your first thing is
control for you.
100%. But the first thing is understanding it, which having conversations like this reinforce it, I think, and then just slowly working on it over time.
Yeah.
I think it's not expecting that immediate reaction,
Yeah.
but it comes with time. It comes with work. That's self-development.
For me, it was definitely surrender and control.
Yeah.
Because I get triggered by so many things, man. Like
Yeah.
at one point, so I've got bipolar, so like
Right.
everything triggers me. So I had to spend a good 5 years just understanding why I get triggered by everything so easily.
I'm curious, what do you do for recreation? Because people who have those control issues, they tend to have very interesting hobbies.
So this is it. So I'm a PT, I'm a coach.
Okay, yeah. That's something you
obviously we
definitely
do-
can't control, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Yeah.
So like my physical well-being and mental well-being is like a non-negotiable for me, because if I don't look after myself physically and mentally, it's a wrap.
The knock-on effect. Yeah.
Podcasting. So this is my creative expression. This gets me talking. It's like therapeutic as hell as well. And then I used to draw a lot and I used to sketch a lot.
Right.
Used to play music, like drumming and like as percussionist. But that's kind of like transcended into digital
Right.
marketing and digital stuff in more modern times, because
Right.
no one taught me how to monetize my creative side when I was younger. Whereas now in the online world, it's
There's so
like
many opportunities.
yeah, that's where my skill set kind of transcended. And yeah, like that's me. Like I feel like you do have to understand that recreational side a lot more.
Yes.
Because your mind is always,
Yes.
you know, it's busy. You know what I mean?
I feel like this is something I said on a song a long time ago. I can't even remember the name of the song, but it was, you are who you are in your downtime.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you have no responsibilities and you're just, that's who you really are. And it's those, you know, those things that you say you used to draw. That's something that your inner child might still want to do.
Yeah.
But it's like paying attention to that. I feel like sometimes we have to parent our inner child.
Yeah.
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 100%, bro.
I like that.
100%. It's something that I'm always saying to people, man.
Well, something that's a sort of a self-development area for me recently, which I'm really enjoying the journey, is hypnotherapy.
Okay.
And it's really interesting because I'm a big advocate of therapy in whatever capacity might work for the individual. But it's interesting because it helps me with specific areas like that. So it's about changing the neurological patterns in my brain to either compensate for trauma when I was younger, or to work in a more efficient way. So I've done it through to focus on performance, other ones to focus on how I handle, because I can catastrophize situations, and that's always been a thing. It can be a trait of ADHD, or it can be a trait of childhood trauma. So it's managing that, and it's done through storytelling almost, and it's so interesting. And it's always different techniques, but that's helping me understand these different areas.
Yeah.
So it's like today, the conversations, I'm taking them in and I think in a way that I wouldn't have 6 months ago.
Right.
So it's really interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Storytelling's powerful as well, because that's where rumination manifests itself, because you've got this ongoing story that you tell yourself about the past.
Yes.
That's the thing about the music, like why certain songs I don't perform anymore. And
Yeah.
certain songs
I understand
do,
that.
you know,
Yeah.
The
because
story
it's
that it
bringing
tells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While it was once an outlet that I could get it out and it was healing, at a certain point becomes damaging.
It brings you back to that place.
But you get to that point, sweet spot, where enough time has passed, and
Yeah.
it's that thing. Once you can describe a traumatic event without reliving it, that's when you've healed from it. But when it's too fresh, or sometimes it's too deep,
Yeah.
even just
I get
talking
that.
about it can
Like,
bring it back.
When I first got out of hospital, because I got sectioned, I first got out of hospital and I was like, I can't talk to fucking anybody about this shit, because it was wild in there. You've got young kids slitting themselves and stuff. It's pretty graphic. But I'm at a point now where I can actually talk about it quite openly.
Yeah.
But bro, I had to get a lot of work done just to get to that point. And now I can totally relate to what you mean in that sense.
Yeah.
It must be tricky with music though, because your music's just out there.
Yes. It's that thing, once you put it out, you're not really in control of it anymore.
Yeah, you have to detach, right?
Yeah, to an extent. To an extent.
When you're just because I think I'd be interested to see how much importance or how much time you invest in this. when just going back to sort of maybe your views on, you were saying peace and helping people.
Yes.
What is your view of this country? Like in a sense as to the current state of it.
It is a kingdom, but you're not united. It was united.
That's a great way to describe it.
Has been very divided.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the centralized institutions that have been around for a while are at a position where they're just keeping each other propped up, and a lot of us are suffering, which is a shame because there's an educated, intelligent, skilled workforce up and down the country, but the money is pretty much going straight back into London, and it keeps it's London is too big to fail. It's one of those cities that there's so many strings tied to it. It's never going to fail. But obviously, if I was Prime Minister, I would do things very differently.
I gather.
That makes sense.
Because you've got in London, you've got the City of London,
which has just got better and better and bigger.
Well, it's not even part of the UK, the City of London. It's
Legally,
I think don't know if it's referred to as a principality, but it's where all the wealth of the UK is held. And it's governed by its own laws, its own regulations. That's why if you go into the City of London, the police are different, different uniforms, everything.
Wow.
And that's where all of the wealth is. And but it's interesting, and it's also interesting to hear your view coming from your culture, because I believe that as a country, we're built on diversity. We're built on our heritage, but it just seems to have gone slightly askew. And I find it really sad because the multiculturalism is so important to who we are as a country.
I agree.
But it seems so misunderstood and misaligned at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a topic that, you almost sometimes you feel you have to tread carefully talking about, and I just don't think it should be that way.
This is very dangerous narratives
going
around.
Yeah, there's very dangerous narratives. I think it's definitely a polarizing topic, like the state of affairs right now. I think my honest take on it is division is marketed.
Yes.
Because it's marketable.
Propaganda.
So it's like marketing in its nature is all about polarization at the highest level. So really it's like anything that you read, watch or listen to is gonna almost push you to one side or the other.
Yeah,
and I feel like people, maybe not in the middle, but at the top and at the bottom are more unified than, you know.
I think particularly in this country, it's more about class. I feel like in America, it's more about money, but here it's definitely more about class. That those old systems still exist. But what I love about the arts and music is it completely breaks those barriers down.
Yeah, that's so true.
This is true.
I have to say, that seems like it's an area that is thriving. There's continually, every city you go to, there seems to be expansion in those areas and focus on that, and they seem to be blossoming. It's an area, do you know what, I don't mind even saying this, it's an area which I've always felt I guess uncomfortable in, because I feel like I have such a creative side of me, but I've never really, So I've always been, I guess I find it quite intimidating seeing people who are so open with that, because it's something which I've never fully understood how to get to that point.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Like I remember the first time I met you, and I said to you on the podcast, Craig, how I was like, it's amazing how you're just you, because I got so much respect for that, because that's part of the journey I'm on over this last year, is getting, what was it we said? I was saying I'm authentically me, but I'm not unapologetically me yet. So it's an interesting point that I'm trying to get to.
But when you're ready to record your first mixtape, just give us a shout.
That'll be the day. 100% you'll be doing that, mate. Yes.
Yeah. No, we were saying basically to be yourself is the first challenge, but to be yourself unapologetically is a challenge that follows it immediately after. And
it's knowing yourself.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that I was myself unapologetically until it was pointed out to me by yourself, really. It's not necessarily something I was striving to do. It's just, I don't know.
I guess that's the beauty of it, though, isn't it?
It's a courage, I would say, because I think...
Or stupidity.
One of the two.
Courage and bravery are like two sides of the same coin. So you could say it's courage, you could say it's bravery, but like outside looking in, if someone's really brave, you might say, oh, that person's just really stupid because they're doing some shit that nobody else has the courage to do. So it's two sides of the same coin. But I do feel like being yourself, it definitely comes back down to knowing yourself. Because you can't be yourself if you don't know yourself. But I do think it comes down to having the audacity to be yourself, because if you didn't have the audacity to be yourself, then you would blend in, not by default, but by choice.
Yeah.
And in different spaces, you can be yourself when you're on your own.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's actually, it's interesting part of recovery, because I know one of the things, big triggers of addiction and stuff is loneliness. But a kind of strange paradigm is that part of that process is learning to be alone.
Yes.
Which is where a lot of the growth happens.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, you're right.
Because that's when you really know yourself. You don't have the external stimuli.
Yeah.
Who am I really?
You can't numb anything. Yeah. And it's learning to be comfortable in your own skin. That's the key. And then just taking that next step and being accepting of where you're at.
Yeah.
And then I think for me personally, from my experience, I could only grow when I was like, okay, this is where I'm at. You know, all of my dirty laundry was aired out for everyone to see, but that was the really good thing to happen. It was sort of like, okay, well, this is now your starting point. Instead of trying to, you know, create this image of the person I was, where now I look back and everyone around me it was pretty obvious that that's not where I was. You know, I was not this person I was portraying myself to be. It was a big weight that was lifted, and it allowed me to start moving forward. But it's that journey.
Would you say you were more of it's a very general question, like a yes person or a no person when you were younger?
When I was younger. So I was a real people pleaser for a long time. So I was a yes person, but not necessarily for myself. I was a yes person because I wanted to please people.
Right.
So that's why that was always my focus. But the reality of what I realized through people pleasing, it doesn't benefit you, and 9 times out of 10 doesn't benefit them. So it's a really funny thing because it's such a
weird dynamic.
Yeah, it's a strange dynamic because it doesn't benefit anyone, but the whole intention, or the intention you think you're doing, is to benefit as many people as possible, and it doesn't have that effect.
I feel like particularly with being a yes person, if you're in a positive environment and you're with the right energy, you can set up multi-million-dollar companies, you can be philanthropic or whatever. But if you're in a toxic environment with, you can just go straight down. And I found there's, particularly with people with addiction, they tend to be yes people.
Yes.
Agreeable people that kind of...
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying there.
Environment and routine is so
But it is actually a very good trait in some ways, but it's about having the right energy around you.
Yeah. Yes, completely. You know, your product's your environment, and that's one thing which has changed completely. You know, who I surround myself with, who I spend my time with, because you will feed off that energy. And that's and you're right.
That's the thing. Like, I know people who've been through addiction come through addiction. Sorry to bring you up again.
Go for it.
There's people who, like I said, still don't mess with you, but there's people who have seen that you've changed, or at least accepted, and you're on this journey. One of the reasons why I have is I've seen all sides of this. So I've met someone, I'm not going to name names, but I've seen someone who smoked crack in front of me, and 2 or 3 years later they were dead. I've seen someone who smoked crack, and 2 or 3 years later they were in and out of jail. And I've seen someone who did the same thing. 2 years later, they got completely clean. They got a job. And that's another thing. Like, I know he's a hustler and he makes money, but one of the things that does help is getting a job when you're in that situation. It gives you that regular kind of, it ticks a lot of the boxes. It gives you a foundation.
Hierarchy of needs, isn't it?
You can kind of, but he did that. Then he left the country, got a family, started his own business, and he's a completely different person. So I know that's possible. I've seen it in front of my eyes. So that's why anyone who, is sincerely trying to recover and turn their life around, I'll always,
love that.
9 times out of 10, I will give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I love that. That's rare, by the way,
That
to see that side of
compassion
people.
goes a long way though, because sometimes if you're in a dark corner, that's the level of compassion that you require.
Yes.
Just someone just throwing you a bit of a lifeline sort of thing. Whether it's in the form of a friendship or whatever.
Sometimes just someone knowing you're there. That's all it is, really.
Just to sit with you through the process. You try. It's first attempt at life, man. It's not easy to figure everything out. I wanted to ask you, bro. It seems that you're very good at like compartmentalizing everything that you understand about your reality. So how deep does that go for you? Like, what has been an observation thus far for you that threw you off, but also what's maybe like made you realize some shit in life? Like just in general, like in terms of your spiritual journey.
I would say the big esoteric question that is always asked, the meaning of life. My answer is one word answer, which might seem a bit crazy. I think it's style.
Okay.
Really?
Because we all have a choice. We make choices on a day-to-day basis, how we want to live our life. We're all blessed with being alive, but how we choose to live our life will give it meaning.
Yeah.
So the style in which you do anything, you know. Me, I'm trying to manifest peace and calm.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't grow this hair just to pull it out. You know what I mean?
I like that.
I want to, you know, I've been through that phase, you know.
Yeah. No, I love that, man.
When
I'm
you
trying to do things in a more calm, discerning manner. Give myself time to
I like that.
figure things out when I need to.
Has peace always been a key part of your life?
Because I felt a lot of conflict. Like when I was young, not like it was tough. People used to throw rocks at me. They used to spit at my brother. We were very much like didn't feel safe going home. Do you know what I mean? And then when I got home, my parents were yelling at each other in a language that I didn't really understand, which is a scary kind of thing. Obviously, you know, grown since then, but it's like you have those early experiences.
Yeah,
they have that much conflict. You want, you know,
they're core memories.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's that thing about instincts, and I have this thing where I can see if something's boiling up. I can see if a fight's about to kick off, and one of the things that I'm very good at is kind of de-escalating situations.
Yeah,
that's something that I've learned.
Probably from your youth.
Yeah, my mum, my dad, my brothers, you know, sometimes it needs to happen.
I love that, man. That's a great message. Yeah. How does it manifest itself now day to day with you? The peace side of things.
The peace.
You meditate?
I do.
Meditation's very good.
Well, in fantasy, I can engage in my fantasy and dream about things, and then they can't happen, I guess.
That's true.
You need
What's
that
your
space.
thoughts on manifestation? Is it something that you...
Yeah, 100%. I think too much scheduling, if you schedule your entire life, you're just doing admin on your life, then you might as well be an AI.
Yeah.
But I feel like you need to leave space for the magic. So you have a plan, of course, but you've got to leave space for the universe, whatever.
Leave
has
space
a plan,
for the magic.
Yeah? So when you're doing your diaries, check, have you got some time where you haven't got anything planned? Because we overschedule. I feel like we all overschedule ourselves.
That's so easy to do.
Manifestation still to this day blows my mind. Like I manifest so much stuff like in my life, but I just don't know how I do it. My only understanding of it really is the universe responds to the most dominant internal state that you're presenting.
Correct.
So that's why I try and like say what I want and then just imagine that it's already came to me.
Yeah.
And that's all I understand about it. But
so to go completely meta, you are not your bodies or your brains. You're the energy running through it. So the current that's running through it right now, you're actually the energy. So it is the frequency. The frequency that you're putting out is what you'll attract. And I feel like when I do music in particular, I feel like I'm connected to the whole room. Like when I'm performing, I can feel it.
I like that.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I think I love that because manifestation is something which, as I've gone through different sort of development cycles, I've been very much an advocate for it, and other times when I've not been in a positive state, I haven't. And the way I see it is, I think, from my perception, you can't 100%. The way I've got it wrong in the past is you can't just try and manifest things and then get annoyed if they don't happen. If you're not necessarily
attachment.
Yeah,
it's
it is, isn't it? It's So, and if you're not putting the foundations in, if you're not putting the right actions in,
attachment to the outcome.
it's so I think it's an interesting thing to look into, and I think also, but it's, for me, all I know is if you're doing the right things every day, your focus is on being a better person, and you've got these non-negotiables. If stuff works its way out, the right people come into your life as well. That's blown my
100%.
mind this year.
Yes.
The
Yes.
people
so
that
many,
come into your life,
Because
you might not know it at the
you're
time.
giving that energy out. That
Yeah.
energy will attract
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And there's so many, like you were saying, there's so many loopholes that catch you out, like your attention and focus, like law of magnification. Whatever you put your attention and focus on, then magnifies and amplifies, and then it becomes something because you literally are just placing your attention and energy on it. And it blows my mind, like how much power we have actually over our circumstances in that sense.
Completely. But it requires this, for me anyway. I always try and revert back to, I can only speak for myself, but it's that discipline, it's the consistency, the discomfort, because there is discomfort in growth consistently.
Yes.
But I think it's understanding, it's the acceptance of these things.
It comes from the attachment again. The discomfort comes from trying to hold on to. You might even be subconsciously holding on to patterns, thoughts, behaviors that you don't even realize. And you're like, actually, it's okay.
Yeah.
Are you more
That's
of a
interesting.
reader, watcher, listener? What do you consume?
Like
Yeah.
because I've become creatively inclined, I can't even watch a series without start analyzing the series, and I'm like the writing, and I'm like story beats, and like it's hard to turn it off.
Yeah.
But in that way, music is good sometimes because I can close my eyes and kind of go on the journey.
Who are some of your favorite artists?
It ranges from like Fleetwood Mac, Bob Dylan
brilliant.
to Travis Scott and Playboy Cardi. It's
Love
totally all over the
Bit
place.
of a
love
mix,
that.
yeah.
I like people who are different. I like people who are unapologetic, and I like people who have something to say.
Have style.
You know, generally
That's cool.
style. Exactly. That's
Yeah,
it.
people have
That's
style,
it,
man.
I think music, it just evokes such emotion. That's what I love. I mean, the artists you reeled off there, amazing.
The challenge with music, right, in the UK is
Are you thinking industry wise or?
well, I don't know enough about the industry to make comment, but the challenge with music is how much it impacts you culturally. Because like a lot of these kids shooting, killing and stabbing each other are just so immersed in the lyrics
It's so funny to me.
of the music that they forget who they are. Now, I've met kids who just go to church like through their childhood, have really sound parents, like hard working
Young drillers.
and then all of a sudden they making music about shooting, killing, and stabbing people, and I'm like, what the hell?
It's so
With
funny.
a sock
It's,
over the head kind of thing.
So is that not? So the only way I can understand is that not them? It's a community side of it. Is that not an element of it?
Well, if you live that life, okay, fair enough. Like for me, right, the stage was the place where I could be myself. The only like you're talking about being yourself unapologetically. When I'm on stage, I can absolutely. That's the space for it. So to go there and do a parody of what everyone else is doing makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
You know,
But
but I guess it's an escapism. It's
That
like an
very
escape
rarely
for them.
that very rarely works out for the people doing
Yeah.
that as well, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because then you got to play this
That's true.
character.
Yeah.
Very true.
I just think it adds fuel to the wrong fire, man,
Yes.
because the people who are really about that life, they don't want that life.
Of course
They're-
not.
It's not by choice or decision. It's actually by circumstance, and they're trying to make the best of a bad situation, but
Exactly.
they didn't ask for it. They want more out of life, and
No.
that's just their method or strategy.
And I do
or-
feel, if like, I particularly have an ear, I can tell when I listen to an artist, okay, we've really been through that shit by the way they say what they say. Or especially when I see them live, I'm like, yeah.
If you ever hear me start
Yeah.
rapping, bro, just know that I've been through it, man.
I'm exactly the same when it
Yeah.
comes to that.
You can
And
tell.
I couldn't describe to you how I know,
Yeah.
but I just know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's why it's the same reason why you'll never hear me making a grill,
I feel like
grime or
that's-
drill tune.
That's the thing about where the industry is, and people think it's cooked, but it's because it is chasing trends. But if we go to 100 years ago, before there even was an industry, or even like the Middle Ages, music was something that brought people together. And if you wrote a song and other people started singing that song, it would lift everyone's spirits. There was not an ego about it. It was
That's
like,
true.
you know what I mean? I would be delighted.
Yeah.
Like, even if I make a song and someone takes a bar from it and makes a whole other song, great.
Yeah.
That's good. You know,
Yeah.
What
that's
I
what
do,
it's for. But
what I do
this
rate is like a
industry's-
lyricist. Yeah, like someone like yourself who, you know, bar for bar, like you're really going for it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
I think it's such
I
a
find myself
talent.
on it. I find
It's
myself
such a
on it. I
talent.
do.
What's your plans for the future then? What do you got on this year?
Music, movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do any
So-
documentaries?
That's something I've toyed with. I have a
I
lot
bet
of
that'd
footage
be cool to do that.
stocked
Yeah,
up.
that'd be
I
cool.
think one day I'd like to pool with other people who have other footage and do like a comprehensive documentary on Northeast music and
Yeah.
That would be cool.
at some stage. But I think the time's not right for that. But
Mm.
that is something I could definitely see
Pull
myself
off,
doing.
That's interesting.
Love that, man. Yeah, I feel like there's so many places that I could go. So what did you say you're reading recent? What's your most influential book that you've read? Because I know you're a reader, bro.
You got me thinking a lot. I love it.
If I'm being completely totally honest, it's probably Roald Dahl.
Top 5.
Probably Roald Dahl.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Give me your top 5, bro. Give me your top 5.
Money by Martin Amis.
Okay.
That's a good book. Devils, Dostoevsky.
Okay. The Brothers.
That's a deep one. That's
your
I don't
book.
know if that's Tolstoy or Dostoevsky. I haven't read that one. I probably should.
These are deep, man. Keep going.
That's a heavy one. Probably the third Harry Potter. I'm being brutally honest. 'Cause,
That is a good one.
yeah.
That is a very
Dude,
good one.
that's when everything got dark. I was
100%.
like,
That's when they
whoa,
got good. Yeah.
Holy, whoa.
It's
okay,
true.
the stakes
Give
are
me,
up now.
give me,
Um,
give me a couple non-fiction bangers.
Non-fiction. This is a bit contentious, but I actually really liked Barack Obama's
Oh, okay.
biography, and I can't remember what it's called. It wasn't The Walk. It wasn't The Long Walk. It was the one before.
What's well,
That was interesting.
beyond the obvious things, what was interesting about it or his
Well,
story?
he was talking very candidly about doing coke and smoking weed when he was a
Really?
teenager and stuff. I was like, yeah,
yeah,
and I was
man.
like, holy shit! Oh,
Wow,
Yeah.
he wasn't like Bill Clinton. I didn't inhale. He was like, yeah.
Yeah,
I used to
yeah,
do, I used to
that's crazy, man. I wouldn't have thought
do
that.
coke on occasion. Yeah, before his midterms or whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
all right.
That's
That's
I
crazy.
appreciate people being honest and people.
Yeah,
You know,
I think you see through it when they're not.
yes.
I think it's really that's the most clear thing. I think especially
Jordan Peterson talks about it a lot. Are you a fan of him?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I follow Jordan Peterson to a point, but I think fame has gotten the better of him. I feel like in the last few years, he's now become a caricature of himself.
Yeah,
And
I agree with
but
that.
not everyone can
I
handle
can
that
see
level of
that
fame.
view.
Fame's never been like this.
yeah,
Even 20 years ago,
And
fame
that-
wasn't this scrutinous.
his level of fame is
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
He's so polarizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find him fascinating. I really do. I really do. I think what was it? We said the other day, I was saying anyone who's prepared to fall on their sword to the degree he is, they're going to interest me.
Oh, he's
Right.
dying on any hill. That
Yeah.
he talks.
Like,
Anything that he talks
like-
about, he's dying on that hill.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's to a whole nother level.
But in his
And you have-
earlier lectures, they were very intriguing. And what intrigued me about them is he would make a point, and even if I didn't agree with it, he would reason out
That's what I love.
why he thinks.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
It's not
He'd
this
explain
is
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just this is my view. If you don't like it, that's fine. Well, this is why I think that
This,
way.
This, and this.
And then you can get. I think it's so hard to argue with someone that breaks it down like that. Even if there's things I don't agree with, I'm like, okay, but I see how you've got to that conclusion.
That's it.
That's like for me. That's what I do like about him. For me, that's such an articulate way to have a discussion. You might.
There was a good one with him and Sam Harris.
Mm,
That was a really deep one. And they
Yeah.
didn't agree on a lot of things, but they were
Yeah.
both kind of going in.
but I think that's so important. It's so important to have a conversation like that.
Proper discourse, not just
Yeah. But I think you have to be at a point where you are willing to listen in a non-objective way.
Entertain the thought without accepting it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
That's it.
Man, this might be one of my favourite episodes we've done.
I told you it was a good idea.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. 100%. Mate.
I keep forgetting that.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
I keep forgetting I've got a mic.
Sorry?
What did you study?
Economics. Yes, and then there was an economic, crisis, housing crisis, and then I studied international development, and then Brexit happened. So the universe was like,
it was realigning you pretty heavily.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's not.
But it has grounded me in an understanding of things, and yeah, it's a very interesting time to be living.
I love that, man.
That's awesome. I think that's a good place to stop, mate. That was fantastic.
Sure, brother.
Man, that was a pleasure. Thank you so much for getting on.
Appreciate having you.
That's it. You got a great aura about you.